Oh, and yes, he is running for DC, and to demand real democracy for DC, which does not have actual representation, does not have voting representation in Congress, and needs it, deserves it, and he's been an advocate for it, and just a complete community force. So I'm so excited about this race and his ability to challenge an incumbent that has also been around for decades, who started off with a lot of fire, but has kind of become a cheerleader for the Democratic Party as usual. So with that, take it away, Kymone, and thank you so very much for being in the race.
Yes, thank you. Kymone Freeman, that's Freeman, the number 4, Congress.com, Washington, D.C. I represent We Act Radio, independent media outlet in Washington, D.C. on the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue. Unfortunately, since we start flying a Palestinian flag on the roof of our building, our server mysteriously keeps going down. So we're offline right now. I hope to be back up tomorrow. So try us again. But this is what we're up against, the things that we do. Brother Todd, Baba Todd said something about, that, we're preaching to the choir. Well, Dick Gregory told me in our studio that, the choir needs practice, And so let me give you guys some artillery to help you out with some of these debates that you have, explaining yourselves about how voting third party was going to ensure Trump victory and these things. Imagine a real democracy telling people who they have to vote for, paper or plastic, genocide or fascism. I prefer a real villain as opposed to a fake hero. And the definition of insanity is doing the same exact thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. So we are standing at an inflection point in this country. I think that we have an opportunity for the largest third-party turnout in the history of this country. If we can just simply educate people that sometimes you can win an argument by making a concession. Oh, a third party can't win. Okay, I concede that under the current political system in America, a third party doesn't have a great chance of winning a general election. But that's because of the electoral college, and you should have some smoke for that. But all we need is 5% of the national vote to break this two-party political system. 5%. And if Jill numbers come up and there's a three-way race and they split in the war vote and there's going to be an actual anti-war support, then maybe we can just flip tables like Jesus' election and take home the title. But these things are within the realm of reality if we are bold enough to imagine it and pursue it. The first time I voted, first election I ever voted, because I was up until that point, I didn't believe in the political system. I hadn't seen enough to convince me to participate. And the first election I voted in was an election that was indeed stolen. If there's ever was an election stolen in our lifetime, it was 2000 when George Bush's brother, the governor of Florida, handed him the electoral votes of his state. The Supreme Court handed him the White House, and Al Gore submitted without a fight, and that disgusted me. And so the one time I vote Democrat, this is what I get. So the next time around, 2004, I was working for Ralph Nader. It took a war for me to get up and do something. That's when I became involved. I was hired by the Nader campaign. I drove a corporate crime buster vehicle in New York City for a couple of months that I stayed there working on his campaign. The first time that I ever spoke publicly was on the behalf of Ralph Nader's peace campaign in 2004, because both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party was for the war. I had no choice but to pursue the peace, the planet, and the people. And I did that. So when people tell you, well, there's a vast difference between the Republicans and Democrats. Okay, let's start there. In the chats, I need y'all to sign off. Do you believe that America is a racist country? I would love to hear from each and every one of y'all to cast your ballots right now. Do you believe that America is a racist country. All right. Now, the top Black um, um, official in the Republican Party is Tim Scott, who actually has been in our studio. He denies that. He said America is not a racist country. Okay. The Democratic Party, the highest Black official in the Democratic Party is Kamala Harris. She has not been in our studio in Washington, D.C., and she's on records also denying that America is not a racist country. So you tell me what is the difference? Because when it comes to their denial, when it comes to their foreign policy, they are two wings of the same board, okay? And the fact that someone will have the audacity to say that Israel is not a racist country, they have legal apartheid in Israel. Like that's crazy. But let's make sure that we are well equipped to have these arguments, because the revolution will happen around the dinner table. And I told you before, We Act Radio broadcast is on the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue. So the quote from Martin Luther King. He says, "Men long regarded as political clowns have become elected officials, their magic achieved with a witch's brew of bigotry, prejudices, half-truths, and whole lies." I submit to you that is our Do Nothing Congress. That is the makeup of our Do Nothing Congress. And as Dr. Stein said, I'm representing the radical side of Martin Luther King Avenue in Washington, D.C. I'm espousing all of the things that got Martin Luther King killed. I'm not talking about the "I Have a Dream" speech King. I'm talking about the guy who later said that the dream had become a nightmare. I'm talking about King from 66 to 68. I'm rocking with that, because there's a monument here in Washington, D.C. to Martin Luther King's legacy. But did you know that they sandblasted and edited his quote on his own statue because it was a little bit too radical for the status quo to swallow? These are the things that we need to talk about. Dr. Stein alluded to the lack of voter representation in Washington, D.C. The nation's capital doesn't have voting rights. We are a plantation. We are a colony of the United States government. Taxation or representation. D.C. residents pay more in federal income taxes per capita than any other citizens, but yet we have no vote in Congress. So every other that's why my position is called delegate, not congressman, delegate, because I do not have a vote in Congress. But if we don't have a vote, then we should have a voice. And so I want to bring this type of radicalism to the space and making sure that our issues are being spoken to. Because the fact of the matter is, I got into the Green Party because I was trying to stop a war. Now I'm running in the Green Party because I'm trying to stop a genocide. And when I went to see my beloved Congresswoman, 87-year-old, 34-year incumbent, thinking that this sweet, nice old lady was going to sign her name to a ceasefire, she tells me that she's not ready for a ceasefire. Now, I didn't have the wherewithal in that moment to challenge her and say, well, where's your comfort level? How many people have to die for you to feel comfortable? I didn't do that. And I wrestled with that. And I looked at this lady and I realized that she had now become a gatekeeper for the status quo. And a lot of our people have become gatekeepers for the status quo. This is how it's always been. And this is the things that we need to change. And I need to make sure that everyone is politically mature enough to understand that injustice is anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Y'all gonna get sick of me. I quote King all day, okay? Because if DC doesn't have statehood, and we are paying more taxes than anybody else, and every other non-voting DC delegate comes from a territory that doesn't pay federal income taxes. We need to look at this not as a local issue in DC, but as the linchpin issue that could tip the balance of power in the entire country. How so? Because if DC were to become a state, theoretically, we would have two progressives going to Congress, and that would tip the stalemate that we have, because both parties benefit from pointing the finger of blame for not getting anything done. It's very childish. It's you, it's you, it's you. You look at Congress right now, there's name calling, mud slinging, nothing's getting done. It's time for us to flip tables like Jesus. We're at an inflection point. This is where we are. And I also want to give y'all this. A lot of the issues facing real Americans is the rent's too damn high, housing is not affordable, but no one should be paying more than 30% of their income in housing, including utilities. That's on the HUD's website. It's a guideline, but it's not a legal requirement. It's not enforced. That's something that needs to be addressed. Social housing. But in Israel, they have subsidized housing. A lot of people in this country is suffering under the weight of student loan debt. Now in Israel, they have subsidized education. A lot of people, the number one cause of bankruptcy in America, and Dr. Stein alluded to this because my sister died. She's no longer here because she too confused Obamacare with healthcare. So you can go to my Twitter page. It's on top of my page where I testified in Congress about that issue. I hope everyone can go check that out to understand and learn from the mistakes that my family made. But the number one cause of bankruptcy in America is medical debt. They have free healthcare in Israel. And all of those things are being subsidized by your taxpayer money. You are paying for all those things for another country to have that you don't have. These are the talking points that all of us should be aware of, that all of us bring to the table, that all of us challenge the status quo on, because we are the ones that's going to change this system. And I will say this, I hope I don't get in trouble. I don't want to see any infighting among third-party people. You know, the last thing we want to be is start sound like our enemies and try to tell people who to vote for and how they should vote. You should vote your conscience. Whoever turns you on that reflects your views the best, that's who you vote for. It's just that the Green Party has the best infrastructure, the best ballot access, the best chance to making the best push to the left, as Beyonce would say, to the left. So I want us to make sure that we are excited, that we are amped, that we are encouraged, that we are inspired, that we know the win is at our backs. And I don't know if you can see this picture over my shoulder here, but that is an artistic drawing of Stevie Wonder. And the reason why he is there, because I think we need to bring arts and culture into our campaign and stop all this dry stuff trying to look like them and put on corny suits and talk crazy. You know, be authentic. You know, now, yes, we do have to rise to the occasion, but we need to be authentic so we can speak the language that people understand. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people don't realize that Martin Luther King Day, the national holiday, celebrate Martin Luther King, was brought to fruition because Stevie Wonder, out of his own pocket, through a national tour promoting it, lobbying it, going around the country to garner support for it. Stevie Wonder did that. Okay, he did that. So when you hear the birthday song, that's Martin Luther King's song. Happy birthday to you. All right, I'm sorry, you gotta give me a second because Stevie Wonder and I share the same birthday. So and mine's just passed. And ironically, I am now the same age that Eleanor Holmes Norton was when she went to Congress. So I think it's apropos. So let me close by a quote by Stevie Wonder to get us on the good foot here. And this is what Stevie Wonder had to say as a phone call comes in to interrupt my Stevie Wonder quote. Sorry about that, guys. As fate will have it, give me just a second here. Pull this quote back up. All right. This is what Stevie Wonder had to say. Life has meaning only in the struggle. Triumph or defeat is in the hands of the gods. So let us celebrate the struggle. And I think that everyone here can attest that we are here to celebrate the struggle on behalf of the people, the planet, and for peace. And I'm honored to be associated with the Green Party under the leadership of Dr. Stein. And I hope that everyone in the sound of our voices will garner as much support from their friends and their families, because the revolution takes place across the dinner table, and give us the support that we need. If you would like to support my campaign, please do what you can at Freeman, the number 4, Congress.com. June 4th is the primary in Washington, D.C. Our kickoff is then. I'm already on the ballot, and I will be on in the general election on November the 5th. Always remember the 5th of November. And I hope to see many of us celebrating victories as we try to save this planet and move forward to the left, to the left.